in front of us. Very rapid fire today, so we'll let Ryan dive in with our.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful evening. We're gonna just jump right back into it and get through your use cases that we have and at the end, if we have some time, definitely answer any questions you all may have. So just get started. So first one is stewardship plans, 201, have a recognition plan created at the time of a gift plan. So what we would look for this, and this is going to be a little bit of some of the things that we talked about yesterday, but maybe just looking at it a little differently. If we go to our buddy Tony, again, there's some decisions that can be made here. So we looked at on a proposal record, which we would consider the gift plan. That's this one's a load. Here. So when we are creating these plans, we talked about tasks that can be created automatically. So if I go into tasks, just because we haven't really looked at tasks and how these work, we have specific types of tasks, and stewardship is one of the types that gets created. So essentially, if you wanted them to be created on the actual proposal record, that could happen either manually, like I'm doing now, where I could come in and say, you know, this is say stewardship task. We're going to type it as stewardship so we can identify that and route it as needed. Again, it's going to be assigned to me, but maybe I need to assign it to somebody else. So if I say Andy will be doing this here, maybe both of us are getting this task. So having the ability to do that. If there's a specific correspondence type, we're going to say, you know, in this case, it's a other, but you can see we have a number of preset pick list values here to determine. And again, pick list values, we can add as needed within here. We have a checkbox again, just to identify these. Again, you could use just the type, or if you wanted to mark this as stewardship, it's going to automatically pull up the proposal record within here. And then if I wanted to tie specific designations, if this was endowment financial, we could add that, or any other needed fields. And then do we want reminders to be set, and when do we want this to happen? So it needs to be done by Friday at 9 a.m. And if it's just recurring, you have some ability there. Not started, priority, you have some status and priority fields, and save. So that is a manual way of adding your tasks to, again, this could be done to the proposal record itself. We're going to look at it. You could do this on a designation record as well. And then the other option would be if you wanted to do everything from the constituent or household record as well, right? So we also within here, if we would you rather do that, or
If it's something like, hey, I'm completely lost here, let me dive in, great, if we won't distract us too much.
I think for this one, you can ask throughout. I think for the most part, these are a little bit shorter. So if you want to ask the question, yeah.
Just with the first one, task, maybe modify or add.
yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about, like, this is just the manual. I'm going in. We're going to talk about automation as well. I'm going to show the tool that does all that. So but even if a task comes to you, and then we're going to get into cases as well, which is another way of looking at this that we actually like, that you probably prefer. So there's a lot of different ways. It's just figuring out what's the best case for you. I'm just going to show you. So we're going to show you a bunch of different ways to look at this. So that is one way. Again, just simply adding a task. If it gets assigned to me, I can then I would say the one thing that task doesn't have, like where case has, where we haven't talked, you might not have seen cases yet. So we're going to talk about cases for sure in this. Cases, there is dialogue that can happen back and forth. Task is more of like, go and do this, right? So just go and do this task. That's where we're going to look at the different areas. So, but if I wanted to do that same idea, but I wanted to do it, instead of doing it on the proposal record, I could do it on the constituent record. And you see here, we have a section for stewardship. So then this is going to bring in my stewardship activities. So it's going to filter based off of that stewardship type that we looked at when we were creating these. And we could have it added here. on the record, as a stewardship task. So again, you have, and again, this could be done on the household record. This could be done for an organization. This could also be done on the designation, allocation, or fund, same thing there. So just depending on some of the areas that you want, but you have very easily, I can just go do the exact same thing, and I can just do that from this point here. So just depending where you want to add those tasks from a manual perspective. No, let's see. So number 2 would also, that'd be creating stewardship tasks from a constituent. Again, you can add all the needed fields that you would want. Predefined tasks within the template for 2 of 3 would be doing it on the designation. So let me pull up our designation, which is, that here, sorry, gotta move this bar. Okay, and if I go into my designation, if we go to our Ryan Tracy Endowed Scholarship, I'm just gonna go to the stewardship area. Again, we have this section here on the designation allocation fund, same terminology, where we have an area specifically for stewardship as well. So being able to capture those tasks. So again, tasks can go on any record. Doesn't matter what they are. We saw the type where we can include what type they are. Then that is going to give us the ability. So if I want to see what are my tasks, right? Then on our homepage, right, any tasks that are assigned to me, they would show up in whether it's my next steps, or we could have a list view here that says cases. This could be tasks. So that way we can see it all, everything that is assigned to me right here on my homepage. So that way I have all that ability to see that and know what is due and when it's due. So the next part, again, I want to just talk about is, while manual is great, we're not trying to manually do everything, right? So how do those get done automatically that we don't have to worry about that? Because there's going to be situations where when something happens, you're automatically going to do these things, right? So that is where we're going to talk about. This is a first time we're going to see this tool. And disclaimer, this is a admin level tool, but it's just the tool that sets everything up. And I just want to show an example of how we would use this. So this is called Salesforce Flows. This is the native Salesforce workflow tool. This is, they used to have something called Process Builder that I really like. This is the kind of the next level of automation that is just kind of game changing in how you can do things within here. I'm going to let Bob just talk a couple of minutes about this. He's a little more familiar than I am with these. So Bob, you want to just kind of go through what we're seeing here?
Sure. So this is using Salesforce Flow Builder, and essentially you're looking at the Flow Builder canvas, and it's a declarative process automation tool. You can see each of the steps that are there. You can just drag and drop. Each of the little boxes represents, some action that the flow is going to take. So at the top, there was a start, and in this particular instance, what we're doing is when a designation detail record is created, we're going to essentially create a case, but depending on the value or the amount, of that particular gift, we're going to do different branches and create a case with different, values on it. So that first step is really just getting the queue. So we're going to assign the case to a stewardship queue in this particular example. So we have to go out and we query and we find the queue record or queue name called stewardship. Then from there, if the amount of the gift is greater than $1,000, then we're going to branch off to the left. And we do also a check to make sure it's less than 100,000. So if it's between 1,000 and 100,000, we do one thing. And then otherwise it branches down in that second decision step there that's in the middle, where it reads amount greater than 100,000. Then we're going to create a case, but it's going to have different values in it. So it'll then go to the left if it's greater than 100,000, and there's some other criteria. So in each decision step, you can put the criteria, if it's greater than 100,000, if it is assigned this particular, designation, if it's, whatever the criteria you have, and you can do branching logic as well. So it's a very powerful tool that can allow you to, create records, update records, query different things, pull it from here, update children, you get a lot of flexibility. If you're doing assignments of things, you can, screen flows, it's a very powerful tool. that allow you to do, just about anything you want to do.
Bob, is Flow Builder specific to, UC Innovation, or is that specific to?
It's the same
That's
Salesforce.
native, yeah.
And I'll throw out a couple things. So Bob mentioned declarative. This is point and click, right? So this is drag and drop in order to create this, right? The Ascend application comes with flows preset, pre-made. So a lot of common sense flows,
Flows like this.
not this one.
Okay.
But other ones, like in general, think, like we talked a little bit yesterday about when you create a constituent, it automatically creates a household, right? So there's some inherent, maybe let's call them common sense flows. Stewardship is typically a specific sprint during implementation. So the implementation team would work with your team and say, okay, what's the defined business process? You know, what do you want to create? What record do you want it to be tied to? What are the criteria to make that happen? They're basically going to work with you to define this business process, and they're going to interpret that business process in the form of a flow. So what we're showing right now is the example of one where it's looking at the amount of the gift and it's making some decisions on how to create these cases. But obviously that's sort of tailor fit to what your preferred business process is. You may not want to automate a case at $1,000. You may want to have a different value threshold, right? So this is just a natural part of implementation.
And Ryan mentioned add this as an admin tool. I think of admin in my IT brain as the IT, right? Who is touching things that aren't code, but code-like. The beauty of this is it's drag and click and drop and point. So could we give it to a director of engagement, or like, I wouldn't necessarily give it to a gift officer, but could we give ability to set up and maintain these to somebody at a higher level that's maybe not sitting in the back row?
You certainly could. I think of it more, colleges, like college courses. This is a 201 level, 301 level. skill set,
What I would
right?
recommend if you wanted to do something like that, I would give that individual like a developer sandbox where they could do that in there.
Yeah.
And then make sure it's working, and then somebody else could then take that from that developer sandbox where it's not gonna break anything, right? And it's tested in there, and then you can move it over. So
Yeah.
again, exactly, that way you're still giving them a chance to kind of work on some of the things that they might want to work on and test out. And you can have a ton of developer
I think it also
sandboxes.
assumes that we're changing stewardship plans like on reg, and I would expect that we'll probably.
Right.
And yeah, and this tool is really, again, just designed to do what is going to be automated, right? Like, if this happens, we are going to do this. There's going to be the ad hoc pieces, and that's where you do the manual creation that we just looked at with the task creation. Or we're going to get into, I'm going to go into cases here as well and talk about cases.
The flow builder be used for more than just stewardship in this example? It could be used for campaign, it could be used for.
This is the tool for all those automations we talked about yesterday.
Yep.
This is the tool. So we wanted to show it because there is actually, madness behind what we're saying, right? So this is the tool, and it's just kind of give you an idea. And I really like, because it just gives you a really great visual representation of actually what is happening versus some of the other ones that aren't as visual. So again, people like me who can't code can still do workflows, and that's the great piece with what this is and it's provided. And again, a lot of stewardship activities are going to be automated because you already know based off of this, we want to automate this. But again, there's always going to be some ad hoc pieces. Somebody's going to request something, and that's where we're going to talk about the other pieces.
Not that anybody's a dumb, like Salesforce coding for dummies,
Yeah,
Just bringing it forward, click not code.
Yes.
That buzz.
Yep.
And then really quick, either for you or for you, Kyle, a lot of the Salesforce, they're native to Salesforce. I mean, they've got good training programs.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And
Well-
on day one, we talked about, I don't know if it was a requirement for this, but we talked about like the online help and the screens and hovering over the menus and some of that stuff, but even going deeper. And then you're going to get through implementation, specific stuff, training materials, guides, documents that these guys will create and personalize for NIU and pass out.
Yeah, nobody's gonna hide in a corner and build these flows alone, right? Like, I mean, it's a very collaborative process. So the idea is that your implementation partner is going to help you own this skill set moving forward, because they're not always gonna be around, right?
And it's certification.
Correct.
Yes, through Trailhead. Again, I'm a Salesforce certified administrator, and I've did all of that through it's a free tool online Trailhead, and it's fantastic. So you can go through, you get an org. I was talking about this last night. You actually get like a playground org, so like you could go on right now, it's free, and just start playing around and trying to do some of these things. Obviously, it doesn't have our stuff in it, but you get familiar with, some of the tools that it offers. And again, this is just everything is moving to this as of this year, and it's a really great step-by-step drag and drop tool that'll allow you to automate. Again, our whole thought process, automate. That's what our kind of philosophy is. So whatever we can, we want to be able to do that, because that's why you're looking at some of these new systems to be able to do some of these things. So again, I just want to, it's hard again to show a lot of it. So I was like, let's show the tool that's going to actually happen and show you an example of things that happen within here, so you just get an idea.
Hey, Ryan, could I?
Yes,
just wanna
please.
Put an asterisk on. Could you scooch to the right of your browser a little bit and click on elements on the far left? That's kind of hidden there. Can you move your whole browser to the right a little bit?
My whole browser to the right over here.
The whole browser. on the top.
Oh, guy.
I'm so confused.
Oh, select elements?
Where?
Yeah, you're on
You
the
see it?
left. To the left of manager is elements. It's just not coming through on the screen
Oh,
in the toolbox.
there. Okay. Is
Yeah. See if that-
that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Can you click that? And is it coming through on the?
It's right here. I already had it up.
Oh,
No,
that's not-
I remember.
Anyway, so just, I just a few IT notes. So for the IT folks in the room, Salesforce, as these guys said, consolidated a bunch of tools into this, and even the AI stuff that I showed, that was going to OpenAI. We kicked this off via Flow because we want customers to be able to maintain that. So even stuff that we're doing now, if we're developing custom Apex, can be called through this. So, the things, get records, update records, do looping, do some sort of logic, all the stuff that we would do in the quote old days with store procedures and the shell scripting, blah, 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 blah. We always kind of yell at our team, hey, man, figure it out declaratively first before you do any sort of coding. So this tool can take you very far in terms of all the declarative stuff. So that's why we're kind of harping on this a little bit. It's a really nice upgrade.
And so again, to bring it back to the use cases, right? So 2.04 and 3.01 are asking about the automation for like donor recognition based on defined events, automation for support and creation. This is a little bit of the sort of art of the possible, right? During implementation, you're going to define what you want automatically created and based on what criteria, and we're going to work with you to help define what that flow needs to be.
And then just to show the actual, again, we've looked at some of this for some of you, but I want to go back to it for anyone that's for the first time. So this is a case. So we're going to create a case object. So we can see here we have we can have a stewardship case. And then in the back end, what we're doing is we're setting up case assignment rules. And that case assignment rules is going to say, based off of the type of the case and maybe even some of the subtypes that we're adding, route it to these individuals. Again, cases can be routed to a specific person or a queue, where then it can be picked up in a queue. So you have a lot of ability from a routing of this got created, who's going to route it. And I'll talk about it like a manual pickup. But again, there's a whole case, and you can see here, assign using active assignment rule. So again, if you set those rules on the back end, this type of case gets created, push it to this bucket where now your stewardship team can come in, pick it up, or wherever you want to do with this. So it just, in this case, again, you can pre-populate any of these as well. So we have case origin, we'll just say email. We already have it in stewardship. If we want to have, again, we can have whatever subtypes that you wanted to do in here. So I'm just going to say stewardship. And let's just say down report.
When you say pre-populate, you mean you can set defaults?
Well, you could do both. So you can set defaults, but you can also, again, so if you're doing that workflow tool that we just looked at, you can actually have it. So based off of the type of case it's creating, it can just automatically set those, whatever values, doesn't have to be a default. So that case creation that we're talking about in automation, you can literally define each field on that based off of, again, the trigger that's happening. And download report, we'll just call it that. Any terminal comments, any other information? So let's see, contact, let's just say this is for Tony Stark. And again, we did this for, we have endowment. And this is all configurable, so you can decide what all comes into these, but just to get one created. So now we've created a case, it's for Tony Stark. And then now we're gonna be able to, again, work collaboratively in this case versus a task that's essentially just a go do this. So, and again, we looked at these a lot, so this did not actually go to a queue based off of our rules. This actually got assigned to Derek, as we can see here. So again, we have just an assignment just to go to Derek, but I can have those tasks can be in here. I can again have a case team. So maybe our case team is going to be, Derek's already assigned, but then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to be a part of the stewardship team. So I'm going to save that. So now I'm also a member of this case. So now I would be able to see this in my queue. I can have attachments to this. Then we can work alongside in here through chatter. So again, I can go at Derek. I will create the report. I know I'm sharing that collaboratively in here. This is in progress. So again, we're tracking time and stage. So it's not new anymore. I'm actively working on this case. So that way, Derek or anyone else who might be a part of the case team, or somebody who might just be reporting on this would see that I'm actually working on this in progress. I can see the timeline of this as well. So it's going to have the task timeline below. So I'm getting all my activity shown within there. Now, if I want to go do an endowment report, because this is going to talk about some of the next ones that we're going to talk about. So now I have our endowed scholarship designation. And just again, for an overview recap of some of the things that we're capturing in the designation, we have an area here for endowment report. These are just text fields within, or at least the fund purpose is a text field that allows us to type right into the CRM. The purpose or any other description that you want to be able to capture. We're bringing in the latest endowment financials from your financial system. We can bring over year financials as well and store those. So having all that information. And then we talked about FormStack some yesterday. So we have a button then that we can simply just click. Now this is using Conga. So this is just another one of those tools. Again, we recommend FormStack. They're all essentially the same, but I can just simply go ahead, click a button. And then this is going to go ahead and create that template that we have set. So these are just merge templates. So if I said endowment, merge and download, and this is just a different tool, but they all do the same thing as we saw yesterday with FormStack. So I'm going to go ahead and create these.
So while it is a different product to do that template merge, it happens within the environment. We're not downloading a mail merge list.
No.
Taking it to Word.
Correct. All of this is happening in platform. And again, we talked about FormStack a few different ways, like, create a donor profile, generate a tax receipt, do this and that,
All
right?
things that need to be printed.
Right. Anytime you're creating a document, like an attachment, you're using one of these merge tools. And so, by the way, just for those following along, 7.02 is what we're talking about right now, the endowment financials and the ability to create these reports, leveraging this tool.
Yep. So this is just an example of, again, what the end game is. You're in full control over what this is. You can use any field, again, on these records to be able to pre-populate or to merge in information. So again, it's a merge tool where you're going to have static text, you're going to have merge fields, and you can use all the tool or fields that are within your CRM to create these documents. And then again, this just created a PDF. This is just doing a one-off. You can absolutely do them in mass. So if you are going to do them in mass, how FormStack works, you can actually do that. We don't have the button on the layout, but FormStack, you can actually do a list view and you have the same button like you would see add a campaign, send list view email. You would have a button here. Actually, there's one, the merge document. There it is. So I can actually mass select individuals, and then I could do merge document. And then it would allow me to choose the document that we want to be able to merge to do like mass acknowledgements or things like that. So you can actually use these list views that we were looking at, these query tools, to be able to do mass acknowledgements. So just wanted to touch on that because I believe that was 303 to be able to do things in mass. So you have that ability. FormStack can also be, or really any of these, can also be done automatically. So these types of PDFs can actually be generated via Flow as well. So that same workflow tool can actually generate these automatically and it saves them to the record. So there's really a lot of ways from a letter perspective to be able to create, and again, you would set, if you're doing automatically, you'd set which record you would want or which template you would want. But those are really the three ways. You do it manually, you do it in mass via a list view, or you do it automatically via a workflow. Those are the ways that, at least from a form stack perspective, that you would use the tool to generate different documents within Ascend.
And if I could ask if you could pull up like a constituent record like Tony or someone. So 3.02, there's an ask, again, using this same tool to generate personalized recognition letters that are based off of some sort of rule or criteria that's tied to the individual. So that's information that we're capturing on Tony Stark's record, right? We're capturing those rules, that set of criteria or what's going to be used for the criteria of like what template to use. And then that form stack action, that document merge action would happen here either at the constituent record, or it could happen tied to a very specific opportunity, like a specific proposal that Tony Stark was related to. Is that tracking? Does that make sense?
So you can have multiple actions. So let's say Tony gives a gift to the scholarship gift.
Mhm.
It'd be one form of acknowledgement letter template. And so you could build that into the flow, because it wouldn't just be scholarships, it could be professor.
Correct. So in the starting point, form stack, you'd have a bunch of templates, right? For a bunch of different scenarios. The way that flow would work, it would say, check for this criteria. If it's a scholarship gift, go with this template. If it's this, go do this.
Amount, then automatically do this.
And especially if you're looking like scholarship versus like a professorship, we have a designation beneficiary that would have those different types, so you could use that. And I'll talk about that here, since we just looked at beneficiaries. So, actually, let me go to Peter Parker, because I know he's a beneficiary. So if I go to Peter Parker's record, we have a designation beneficiary section here that will show me where he was the beneficiary of. And if I go into the actual beneficiary record, we can see here, we have a number of types. So again, fellowship, professorship, scholarship, emeritus, all those. So you'd be able to generate that based off of a field like this type field to determine what it is. Again, like that criteria, like if it was over 1,000, do this. If it was over 100,000, you could say, if it's a scholarship, do this. If it's a professorship, do this, et cetera. So it's using that same tool and branching out the logic based off of these type fields that's actually selected.
Yeah.
Okay, so and again, I want to go into giving societies here for a bit. Yep. Let's see. Yep. Enroll members. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get into 304 giving societies. I want to talk about a little bit of that just to make sure we're good on tasks, scholar or stewardship tasks or cases. We do all feel pretty good about that. Any questions? Okay. So next I want to get into giving societies. So we looked at a tool yesterday, Ruley, very quickly, and I'm going to jump to it again, just to show it. So the one thing that I would say, from a Salesforce perspective and why we have this Ruley tool is when we're using flows, what needs to happen is something has to trigger a flow, right? Something has to be created or done to trigger that action, right? Well, what we're saying in here for our giving societies and why we created this Ruley tool is Ruley is a criteria-based batch workflow tool. So this is an Ascend proprietary tool. What it does is you set essentially specific criteria, and then at night or whatever we're going to process the batch, it's going to evaluate all the criteria that you set and then can perform actions based off of that. So we use Ruley not specifically, but always for giving societies to automatically enroll individuals into a giving society, because you can set, right, if they gave X dollars, they're in this with this level, right? If they've given, 2,000, they're in the next level with, these next benefits maybe. So this tool actually, and you can see the different diamond level. Again, these are just random examples that we've calculated. And just to go into one here, just to kind of show what these look like. What it allows us to do is essentially create criteria. I not even gonna bother going, it is again, just not the prettiest tool, but let's just click new. It'll show you, but it allows you to set any of the specific criteria that you want to look at. And then once it matches on that, you're gonna tell it, okay, do this. And again, these get created, so you can see here is the tool that we've created. So it's not a difficult tool by any mean, but it allows us to create and automatically enroll in Giving Society. So this is the tool that we do that with.
Within your criteria, is it baked in already, like we've got a consecutive year Giving Society, that when someone hits like 3 consecutive years, they're part of a royalty-based society, is that, do we have to code or program off the back end, or is that in there?
So I'm looking at.
We have a consecutive years in the Giving Society field, so that would be something that could be evaluated. I mean,
There's a-
yeah.
Yeah, there's a
It'd
field.
Be evaluated, but I don't know if we have anything on the box.
Yeah, we'd have to add the criteria up for it, so it wouldn't be out of the box, but the field is there for consecutive. So what I'm saying, if that is a criteria for you, it's already that is an out of the box field that we have in a Giving Society,
So-
which we're gonna go
So
to.
the criteria would say, look at this field for a number of consecutive years giving. If value equals 2+,
Oh, yeah, okay.
right?
And then for first, like if someone makes their first time, yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And again, I'm just level setting, Kyle brought this up earlier. Flows, everyone on Salesforce has flows. Ruli is specific to our solution. This is our proprietary, added on benefit, right?
So just to show, we also have this tab here for Giving Societies. This is a part of the record. And real quick, before I jump into the next, you all also have paid memberships as well, or just, no, okay, so no paid. So then we're looking at Giving Societies. So this is where I'd be able to see all of my Giving Society, or all the Giving Societies that Tony would be a part of. As you click into these, now we can see, again, this is our Legacy Giving Society. Here are all the members of the society. So if I just wanted to get, a quick, go view all, you see everyone that was a part of this and any fields that I wanted to add. So it makes it very easy. We can set specific levels and you can see eligibility, minimum, maximums. You set all that. And these are the pieces, again, I'll go in and show you where we're capturing the years in there as well. But this is where you're kind of setting some of that. And then Ruli's going to evaluate these criteria, then automatically enroll your members. You can also have your membership benefits that could be tied to certain levels as well. So building those out. And then if I go into, in this case, Tony Stark's society membership. So you can see here, number of consecutive years, 1 year, and then you would be able to, that's going to automatically roll up as he's continually in these. And then you can see we have member since, anniversary dates, calculated, et cetera. So being able to capture and use any of this information when you're using the tool Ruli.
And then I guess inversely, can you set up like a few criteria or rules, like if someone.
To take them out?
What's that?
To take them out of the.
Take them out, or if like
Yep.
they're about to, if we're closed in a fiscal year and someone's gonna fall off.
Yep.
Or
I don't know about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can do,
and
you
you
can
know you
certainly,
can take them out.
you can certainly do both. So typically, when I set these up, it is because you have to monitor the giving. So as they go from, I don't know where your levels are, silver, gold, platinum, but if they're in silver, at some point, they might hit gold, right? So it needs to evaluate and do that. It also goes the other way, because maybe they gave 100,000, then you had to, take it away, right? Void it out. So now they need to come back down again. So it essentially does the criteria and it says, hey, does it meet this criteria? And is that person in this particular society already? And if not, put them there.
Yep.
And if they have a society record, you'll just update it. Otherwise, you'll create a new one. So it can work both ways. And then what was the second part? So.
You essentially answered.
Okay.
Well, and again, to speak to the need for Ruli instead of flow, I mean, there's not always an event that occurs or like a record that's created that would move somebody up or down, right? Sometimes it's been a while since I've given, so I've now fallen down to the next tier. That's why we need something that isn't like event triggered, like a flow is something happens, go do this, right? This is just a background process that's running sort of on a schedule that's evaluating things, and it'll make decisions, say, it's been a while, right? You got kicked down to the silver tier, right?
So then obviously you can have a report that has all those people who say are at risk of falling down.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to get a little creative with how you'd set that criteria.
Bob, you've probably done it, right?
Yeah, so typically on here, we set the expiration date, so depending on what your business process is, when we create the rule, it's also depending on the society, because some of them are lifetime, where we may not put expiration dates, right? I don't know what the names are, but you might have a lifetime, society where it just doesn't expire because you've already exceeded the limit. But then you have some that are fiscal year or maybe calendar year related, so you have to give X number of dollars within the year. So on those, we typically put the end date of the society record as the end of your year or your fiscal year. So then they have to requalify the next year, so it automatically expires. But we keep the record so that you have the history. So you can say in 22, he was in it, and in 21, he was in it, but in 20, I didn't make it, but in 18, he also made it. So we typically keep that list for you so that you know what the history of each giving society is.
I've got,
Things real quick, that's semi-related to 6.01, which is the last thing I want to make sure we did.
Yep.
Show me all of that engagement, relationship, historical information, so that I know how to manage that plan, and then I see Amy has her.
yep,
Yeah.
Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, question. So within one of our societies, we have different levels that we give different tiers of gifts out for. So can I track those gifts in here? Is my first question.
You want to talk about benefits?
So,
And so I think, yeah, membership benefits, I think it's.
yeah, so you have your membership benefits, and I believe
Okay.
they get related to the actual society membership.
Yep.
And you would see that, I believe, we just have to add the related list. It's like, so it would be connected to Tony Stark as a related list. It would be one of the benefits that he received.
Okay. And then my second question is, some people have, attributes like they don't want to have any gifts mailed to them, for instance. Is there a way to track that?
Yep, so we have, let me go, we haven't gone to do contact to my or constituent record. So we have service indicators. That would be any special handling. So a service indicator can be here on a record, but it could also just simply be a special handling flag that you track on a record. So if I go here, then you can see Tony Stark has 4 service indicators, only 2 of them are.
Okay.
So you can have any kind of special handling that you want to do. You can either do as a service indicator, that way you can report on it, or we have our notify tool. So let's just say special handling, notify critical. We're just going to say start or no start. Let's do start today, no end date, and save. And then now, anytime that somebody comes to Tony's record, they would see this. So it just depends on where you'd want to put it. You can't I don't believe notify is really a reporting going to be involved in the reporting. It's more of a visual representation, whereas in the service indicators, you're going to be able to report on all those special handling.
Yeah, so
Okay.
when we say report on too, remember that it can also be used as a piece of criteria for those flows. So in that little decision-making tree, it can say, hey, look to see if there's a no benefit service indicator, right? And if that exists, then go maybe treat it a little bit different.
Okay, but if we were to pull a report of everybody in that society, could that be a field? Would the service indicators show up in that?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes.
Okay, that's my last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I know part of this was also to see the touch point history. So I just
Yep.
want to show that for the individuals might not have seen. So again, we're just on our constituent record, and we have a number of different areas. If I wanted to see what events that Tony in this case attended or registered for, I can go to the attendance history. If I want to see any campaigns that Tony was a part of, I could see our campaign history. If I go into these can live in different areas, and it can be different for who's the profile, again, looking at it. If I want to see those marketing emails that they're seeing, they're right here, and being able to see those specific emails. And then I can also see a timeline of any tasks that were associated to Tony. So really being able to see all in one place, just every piece of connection that Tony's had with your team, within here. Again, obviously you have to have access, again, just permissions always comes into this. You see what you have access to, but you see, again, really everything is here in one place.
Can you show an example of the profile, like a,
Yep.
like a Tony profile?
Yep, so, just like, again, using those, and then we did it for a endowment report, we have a button here, again, this would be using like a form stack, create constituent profile, where then we can have a profile that just lives right on their, record. And just to show you an example, this can use any of that information on the constituent record that we just looked at, like involvements here, this is a, related object, is it not, just fields on the overview. We can use all those related objects to Tony to identify, here's his employment, here's his education. We may want to include their giving societies. Those can be added in here. Those are all related lists to Tony. We can pull all that into a merge field to be able to represent that into a specific document for Tony.
And this profile is one of the pre-canned reports that you can edit and add anything you want to, and have different templates for it.
So this would be using like the merge tool, like the form stack tool, and yes, you would have preset templates with that form stack tool. So this is speaking to kind of 7.01, where, everything related to Tony Stark is going to be in this constituent record, all these related tables and objects, right? You have the ability, if you want, to generate sort of like a document or an attachment that's just like, I want to get summarized info from all those tables and just slap it together on one
I
profile.
think your question was whether or not it was one of the reports.
Yeah.
No, it's not one of the reports. You would develop the templates during implementation that you can then use going forward.
Oh, so you can't report build and bring those direct.
Oh,
No, you definitely can.
And we're gonna get into reporting here.
We just discussed yesterday, we, out of the box, we delivered to clients over 200 reports, lightning reports, but this is a template using FormStack to gather all the information. So during implementation, you would decide like what fields and also the placement and what that template looks like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this conversation's come up a lot in the last year as reporting typically gets pushed off to the end, and it's a big rush to reporting, and the projects. Yesterday, we talked about maybe 1,000+ reports here, and then maybe 75% haven't been looked at. So one of the things that we're starting to highlight, even at this stage, is when you look at your 1,000 type plus reports and you do another pass through, as we go through our demos, like how many of those do we think would end up being lightning reports? Those 200 out of the box. These that Ryan had been showing with his form stack, like generating receipts or making it look really pretty for external consumption, would be a different bucket. So if you look at your reports today, which would be lightnings, which would be form stacks, which would be analytics. So what could be pushed off to a future dashboard or self-service dashboard? And if you, or even Power BI, I think you guys are a Power BI shop also. So as you look at your existing 1,000 reports, if you start to whittle those down, having to start putting those in those buckets as soon as possible will help shrink your scope, hopefully, for the reporting part.
And another part of 701 was to see lifetime giving. So we actually include that as a out of the box area of Ascend. So in our constituent details, we have our giving details. So we have lifetime and campaign, fundraising in cash, pledges, recurring gift, pledge payments, gifts, and then I can see every single gift transaction for the constituent record. So if I did need to get, a gift acknowledgement for a certain gift record or create another, any receipts or anything, I could go right into these records directly from the constituent record and have kind of the same functionality where if I need to merge documents or do things like that, I could do all that from within here.
So you can create both a general donor profile. So let's say that we have specific criteria. We want to look at donors who go to a certain time of event or certain event, certain time of the year. And maybe they gave this much or, just those kind of criteria in a general way, or also learning on donor friends. So that would be more general.
Yeah, so the first part of the question, yes, you can create a sort of general profile of, a constituent that meets this criteria, right? In a looking at trends way, in a more like, I'm going to look at a group of constituents and I want to look at something over time, or I want to look at one constituent over time. Yeah, it's as long as there are attributes that are captured, you can create reports that would look at like mass amount of
Yeah,
constituents.
For that, I would look at their designations, right? Because it's all going into it, so I can see they're giving by designation history. So you'd be able to see and include all that as
Yeah.
where they've been giving over time.
But we also want to look at it from the communication side, so where are these donors coming from, where are they going to, and does that integrate with, is that within a CRM in this, or is that integrate, say, with another CRM?
No, that would be in here. So you would have a combination. So right now, on Tony Stark's record, you're looking at all the gift information. And then in there's a related table where it would show like all the communication, right? I could create a donor profile on Tony that's got the communication and the gift info kind of side by side. If I wanted to look at it more in like the aggregate, where I wasn't just looking at Tony, but a group of constituents like Tony, right? And I wanted to include giving history and communication history and things like that. That's a point and click, like create a report, Salesforce Lightning report to do something like that.
And does it pull from something like a certain analytics, like Google Analytics, and then?
It can, you can, I mean, there's tools. So Salesforce has Salesforce CRM analytics that has like an Einstein tool. If you wanted to do an analysis where you're trying to predict likelihood, or you're trying to predict like a score or a value, or like a true false, like a yes, no, the common ones, like whether or not somebody's going to donate or something like that, right? So there are tools that you can use along with that. You're starting maybe to get into the 201, 301 level report building where you're applying an analysis like that. But yes, absolutely.
And I just wanted to, one other thing, not necessarily on here, but just kind of to just touch on really quickly as it relates to stewardship as well. Within our constituent portal, we do have the ability to show constituents their giving societies within here as well. So we can have those identified. Sorry, just loading up, but just want to get to this. And then we're also, as a roadmap item, is to be able to do essentially giving documents through the portal as well. So if you want to display documents to them, so like their endowment report, you could do it all through the portal. So again, that's roadmap for this year. So just, the statement, and I know we're over time.
No, can you real quick, just pull up that campaign dashboard, and I'll leave you the last one, 703. There's an ask for, can we look at campaign metrics? Can we look at statistics and value and over time? This is just an example of like an aggregation of a lot of different campaign reports turned into a dashboard. We talked yesterday about how a dashboard is a grouping of reports and sort of a visualization of those reports. This is a sort of example of a dashboard that can be created that shows that sort of campaign performance in general. I also want to point out in chat, our friends at Salesforce, Megan, dropped some info about the expert coaching for flow building and trailheads, and she actually dropped, I think, a specific flow session in there. Just to say, you've got resources both on the UCI side and the implementation partner side that are going to be helping you learn these things and move through it. But then you also have free Salesforce resources where you can kind of, like, literally today, you could just go on your own and start doing the little trailheads and get through and kind of teach yourself how to create a flow. Any questions around stewardship before we pivot?
Great. Good work.
Got it. And we'll switch Zooms, and we're going to dive right into Frontline, I believe, correct?